Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm playing some more Total War Warhammer. We're taking a look at a replay between myself, playing as Bretonnia, up against a Vampire Count's opponent. We'll go over the builds here real quick while it's in slow motion. My forces are indeed led by the Fae Enchantress herself, with 2 units of Grail Guardians, a Grail Relic, and she's carrying Favor of the Fae, the Chalice of Potions, Regrowth, and the other heal, Earthblood, is it? Yes, I believe so. As well as Mist of the Lady, all her standard goodies. We've got 4 Battle Pilgrims with 3 Peasant Mobs in front, and 4 Spearmen at Arms to make up a rear line. Kind of make up this Bretonian Death Star, as it were. I'm not a huge fan of the Death Star style of play, but unfortunately it is one of the real ways Bretonnia is competitive, and one of the real reasons that they're considered top tier is because Grail Guardians, they're just 56 melee defense, physical resistance, they never get tired. These guys are beasts, absolute beasts. They can tank out a ton of damage, as you guys will see. We've also got 2 mounted yeoman archers for a little bit of range support that is nice and mobile, as well as the obligatory Royal Pegasus Knights, 1 unit just to help snipe out high value units, especially high value large units. Very good. My opponent's gone infantry heavy, which is an interesting pick against Bretonnia, except for this one Vargulf here. He's got 2 White Kings on foot, as well as being led by a Vampire Lord on a barded skeletal steed. Looks like he's carrying Invocation of Nehek, Dance Macabre, Raise Dead, and Curse of Years. Interesting. And for his infantry, we've got some skeleton warriors up front, a skeleton spearman on each flank, as well as a crypt ghoul on each flank, and a rear line of grave guard with more skeleton warriors here in the middle, and 1 more spear here in the back. Yep, looks like that's everything. As well as these 3 hounds that are hidden in the forest over here. So we're going to kick things off now, and I'm going to get my yeoman archers up here. They're going to start firing away at this Vargulf. He does have regenerate, so this isn't going to do a ton of damage, but what damage I can do to this thing, is going to be good, because most likely in this style of matchup with a Death Star, and usually against any Vampire Counts player, just because of how much healing they have, it's probably going to go somewhat into the late game, so you're going to want to start eating away at that healing cap as soon as possible. We're also just kind of firing into these skeletons, firing into these crypt ghouls, just whatever soft targets we can find here to do a bit of damage. You can see already dropped a few of those skeleton warriors. Missing horribly there, but no big deal. My Pegasus Knights did come in here and try and goon these crypt ghouls who are a bit isolated, and my opponent has mostly left them to die at this point. They're going to do very little with the 20% physical resistance and, high armor of the Pegasus Knights. These crypt ghouls aren't going to do very, very little. So we've got these yeoman archers just continuing to fire here as my opponent kind of marches up on this flank. I'm repositioning my forces to meet him, so we'll go ahead and fast forward this just a little bit as my opponent marches forward. No need to wait on that. He does bring these hounds out and bring these hounds out as well and kind of position them around, but with the spears in the rear lines, he's going to have a hard time finding a home for these dire wolves, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. So the Vargulf's charging up in front, going to get mucked up in these peasant mobs, and the Grail Guardians are going to rush in to meet, as well as 1 unit of peasant spearmen, which I did give shields just for the extra melee defense to make them a bit more tanky. You can see again the peasants absorbing the charge, and then the knights, the Grail Guardians, coming to back it up and form a stable line here, with the Mist of the Lady continuously drawing away hit points and her dropping healing spells as well. We're moving the Grail Relic up for support, and these mounted yeoman archers are just continuing to fire here in the flank to be a nuisance. And yeah, the Death Star has commenced. It's not a true Death Star. If it was a true Death Star, these guys would be a little more bunched up even. But I didn't really want to get surrounded. So you can see my opponent's doing a good job of finding a home for these dire wolves here, getting into the back of these battle pilgrims, doing quite a lot of damage on the charge there. You can see those guys going down very fast. So definitely a great pick. You know, I've got these spearmen kind of not doing anything over here, so good rear charge there to deal a bit of damage, and then immediately pulling away, not allowing me the time to react with these slower infantry. Just continuing to fire in on this flank, and just trying to deal damage, help these battle pilgrims out against the Grave Guard. That's a fight they would normally lose, so definitely want to try and give them some kind of support. And the Fae Enchantress here is just continuously drawing away more and more hit points in the center. You can see a zombie summon coming in the back here, and these hounds are just relentless. My opponent's doing a very good job microing through this gap here, you know, taking advantage of my mistake and not microing these troops very well. Looks like we're going to drop a Chalice of Potions here in the center. Boom! Beautiful. Probably did a bit of friendly fire there, but no big deal. Did send those Skeleton Warriors into crumbling. These Skeleton Warriors are crumbling. So these Grave Guard are going to now move up in support. Looks like some regrowth going down on these Pegasus Knights as they dive in and try and goon the Vampire Lord. But since he was soaked up in those Grave Guard, they didn't end up getting a ton of damage on the charge. And these guys are now going to get trapped in here by a bunch of spears. And it's just not a good situation for them. You can see I'm a bit over chasing here with these Spearmen at Arms, but I am going to catch them and try and reposition a bit. This Grail Relic is just chilling here, just helping out the leadership of all these Bretonnian units in the face of scary skeletons and monsters. Oh, oh, the Grail Guardians just continuing to tank. Man, these guys are so cool. Even though I'm not a huge fan of this style of play, you cannot deny Grail Guardians are a beautiful unit, probably one of the best looking units in the game in my opinion, and they are absolute beasts. So you can see just continuing to wear away here. My opponent's still, you know, just being a nuisance with these hounds, just running around, chasing down my routing units, just not allowing me, you know, any space here, just continuing to rear charge and, you know, really doing a good job of finding a home despite the, you know, a lot of anti-large units here in the back. So yeah, just continuing to go. You can see the Vampire Lord did take quite a bit of damage here, but these Royal Pegasus Knights, you know, got trapped in here by spears and they got mucked up and weren't able to pull away effectively, so they are going to get dragged down into the dirt, and they're going to, those few that did get away are going to flee the field. So a bit unfortunate, very expensive high value unit, but they were able to do some damage, so not terrible, but definitely not as much as you would want them to. Over here, these spearmen are fighting valiantly despite their low-born nature against this Varulf here. The Grail Relic is helping keep them in the fight. Normally they'd run away long ago in the face of this terror, but they're continuously poking away at this Varulf, doing some good damage, and you can see my opponent still just running around being a nuisance with those hounds, chasing down all the routing peasants. He is going to get a hold of these Yeoman Archers. They did empty out most of their ammo though, so no big deal for me. Yeah, the fight's getting a little bit desperate here in the front. You can see most of my peasant forces are routed. It's mostly just the Grail Guardians at this point, but these guys are continuing to rack up kills. 174 on this Grail Guardian so far, and only 46 on this one. This one's been cutting through a lot more zombies, but these ones have been dealing continuous damage to this Varulf and just not taking a ton of damage in return. And that's really what you want from the Grail Guardians. You can see now this Vampire Lord, realizing that this Grail Relic is a very important target, is going to get in here and try and take it down. I see that it's taken some severe damage, so I'm going to try and pull it away, and we're going to get the Grail Guardians in here to try and screen it out, as well as the Fae Enchantress herself. Yep, here they come now. So the Vampire Lord, realizing that he's in a situation he probably doesn't want to be in, is going to turn tail and run towards his own lines, leaving the Grail Relic battered but alive, still continuing to support these Spearmen and Battle Pilgrims and other units over here. So definitely good that he wasn't able to completely goon that. You can see the White Kings are continuing to hold out fairly well. They've taken little damage, but I'd imagine their role, at least in my opponent's mind, was to perform a similar function to the Grail Guardians in that they can tank a lot of damage. But being only a single unit model, you know, it's tough for them to really tie down units effectively. And I mean, even if you were to put them on a steed, you know, I'm still just not a huge fan of the White Kings, to be honest. It's almost better to just bring the Vampire Lady, because she has regeneration, and her combat stats aren't as good, but at least she has the regeneration. You can still put her on the steed. You can even put her on her Hell Steed. Even if you don't bring any spells, it's just a better pick in my opinion. Sad for the White Kings, but Still, you can see just continuing to wear away. We've gotten through most of the vampire infantry on this side. I pulled in the 2 Grail Guardians together with the Fae Enchantress as kind of a last stand in case this side fell apart. The Grail Relic is continuing to support, though, and these peasants are holding for the time being, filthy as they are, and continuing to chop through this fodder and die in droves, which they well should. And let's see here. These skeleton spears are in a pretty desperate situation now. We're going to bring in a rear charge from these mounted yeoman archers and get them completely surrounded, see if we can start a crumble. And this White King is now in really bad shape. The Vampire Lord's trying to pull away, and he's I'm actually fighting him with the Fae Enchantress, which is probably not great, considering she's not a really good combatant, but I did self-buff with the favor of the Fae there, and I'm going to use the Grail Guardians to come in here and protect the lady. The lady must not fall. So these knights are doing their chivalrous duty, protecting the Fae Enchantress, and just continuing to batter away at the Vampire Lord. And at this point, the magic of the vampires cannot be sustained. They've taken far too many losses, and the White King starts to disintegrate, as well as the Vampire Lord. And we'll just get some nice shots of these Grail Guardians, finishing off the last of the zombies here in beautiful Bretonnian fashion. How about that, huh? Oh, yeah. I love the art style of Bretonnia, personally. It's a bit over the top, but it's just so beautiful. So colorful as well. So, close battle. Well played to my opponent. Definitely enjoyed that one. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the Death Star playstyle, but I feel like that was not a true Death Star, although I guess anytime you're bringing the Grail Guardians and sort of using them as frontline troops, it is kind of a Death Star, especially with the Fae Enchantress. But yeah, very fun battle. You can see my opponent's forces here. The skeleton's doing okay, but mostly just getting chopped up by the hundreds by these Grail Guardians. And, you know, these Battle Pilgrims, 118 there, pretty good. 91, 146, lots of zombie summons getting carved up by the Battle Pilgrims. And, yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of these guys. Their attack stats are great. They just don't have great armor piercing, so, you know, against something like a Graveguard, they'll definitely struggle. But the peasant mobs dying in droves like they should, and let's see, the spearmen doing an admirable job of, you know, trying to help fend off those wolves. 129 kills on those wolves, and you can see 42 and 59 on the others. That's pretty good work for them, considering all these spears were on the field, and my opponent was just continuously, you know, running around rampant with those wolves. So good play there for sure. The Vargulf, 67 kills. Those were mostly peasants. Pretty good kills across the board for the Graveguard. This unit of Crypt Ghouls is the ones that got gooned by the Pegasus Knights. We did some okay work against them. They managed to completely wipe out that unit. Got in some work against the Vargulf and against the Vampire Lords, so pretty good in the end. Yeoman Archers did fairly well as well, just picking away at those troops. And this Crypt Ghoul picked up quite a few kills. And yeah, you can see the White Kings just didn't get a ton of kills. Like I said, they were probably just meant to tank out the damage, but I think the Vampire Lady's honestly a little bit better at that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you take the White Kings, or would you take a Vampire Lady or two with the regen? You'll have to let me know. Definitely enjoyed playing. Good game to Haddock, my opponent. And thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We will see you next time. Make sure to like and subscribe. Have a good night.